She's an honored, respectable woman, which Islam, honors and respects and gives great, amount of love and affection and rights and everything in Islam for this particular woman. However, the nature that Allah had created the creation in is that men are unlike women. Men are unlike women, and if anyone claims otherwise, he's going against the facts, factual, elements of life. You look around, you will find that there are jobs that only men can do. And if a woman does, it's too much for her. Even if she's able to, some women, mashallah, tabarakallah, they've been working out for so many years, she may knock one of us out, if she was to punch someone. Still, at the end of the day, the average woman cannot do that. And if they do these kinds of jobs, it's too much for them. They are more passionate, more merciful, so they are more suitable for the children, unlike men. Right? You know how it is at home if you have children. If you have children and your son or daughter, they come to you, as a man. Dad, what time is it? Say 9, 10 after 9. After 1 minute, Dad, what time is it? Okay, so 9, 11 now. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, you have your shoe in your hand. Sixth time, you're screaming. Seventh time, you leave the house, right? Take this boy out of my face, right? Or, this is your son, huh? Take your son out of here. Even though he's your son, but that at that particular moment he's not. He's her son. Take him. I cannot look. My boss tells me something 2 times, I scream at him. You want this boy to tell me 7 times what time is it? I told him it's 9:11. It's 1 minute. Let him count 1 minute. It'll be 9:13, 9:14. Khalas. It's understood. Whereas a woman, she may sit with him for an hour. It's 9:15. It's 9:16. 9:70 is like a clock, right? So the women do have this quality. This is real. Men don't. So to try to turn the tables around and have the men sit at home with the children, the woman going outside working, it's not going to work. Right? The children will become difficult to deal with. Everything works out in punching and kicking. They go to school the first day, they beat up this boy and come back, because that's the only way they know how to resolve matters. Whereas a woman will sit down and say, listen, my young son, and life is tests and everything. Women have their way, and we appreciate that way. And so we let them handle that business, and we stay out of that business. So we don't oppress them if they've been working all day, taking care of the children, washing dishes and anything along these lines, preparing food, and then we find one little mistake and we make a big deal. This is oppression for the women, where a man will say, you're no good, life is suffering with you, and every day they play with the word divorce, you're divorced, and so on and so forth. This is all un-Islamic. The word divorce is not to be uttered unless one is in his right state of mind. The woman is not on her menstrual cycle, because usually that is a time where divorce is not allowed. And a number of conditions that Islam stipulates before someone says to his wife, you are divorced. And when that happens once, there's a second time and a third time. So it is not like the West propagates, where a woman gets sick and tired of his wife and he says, you're divorced 3 times and she's out the door. It doesn't work this way. There's iddah, the time where she remains at home with him, and you all know probably the rulings of divorce. This is a whole other subject matter. Point being, no oppression at home. A man should be patient and understand the duties of his wife, and the wife should do the same concerning her husband. If there's no dhulm in the house, if there's justice, then Allah will bless the household. That household will be blessed ultimately. If there's oppression, then oppression, as the Prophet ﷺ said, اتقوا الظلم فإن الظلم ظلمات يوم القيامة. Be careful, be aware, protect yourselves from oppression, because it will be darkness on the day of judgment. It will be a source of darkness on the day of judgment. So no oppression in the relationship between a man and his wife. Sixthly, avoiding arguing. Some people are professional arguers, I guess, if this is an English word. They love to argue, right? To them this is a business. Especially those who deal, the businessmen who are marketing, where they try to sell and buy. They just love to go back and forth in a speech. And some people take their business home, right? He just finished, arguing with the whole people at the office, and so he comes home to continue with the wife and the children. And so he turns the whole atmosphere in the house into that of arguing. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna abghad al-rijal ila Allah al-aladdu al-khasim." The most hated men in the sight of Allah are the stubbornly quarrelsome, those who always love to argue. Arguing leads to destruction, because no two people can agree. If someone agreed with you all the time, it will be you. And you don't agree with yourself all the time. Right? How many times you by yourself, you argue with yourself? I should do this. No, I shouldn't do this. Right? You argue with yourself. So if you're unable to keep harmony with your own self, how do you expect to keep it with a spouse? It's not going to happen. So then we don't feed that element of arguing. It is to be limited, if ever, to things that are necessary in order to send a message across. But to turn the household into that of argumentation, where the woman just replies. Every time he says something, she just wants to get back and to defeat him. It becomes like a war, and one must be victorious, whether they are right or wrong. This is among the main reasons why households are destroyed, because of arguing. So what is the best thing to do? When you enter into the house, of course, what do you say? What is the first thing you do? You don't ask about food. Make sure you don't enter the house saying, "Where's the food?" You begin by saying, "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh." May the peace of Allah and His blessings and mercy be upon you. You begin with the salam, the shaitan will say, "Yalla, out. We cannot stay in this guy's household. We cannot remain with him." So you enter with the salam, which is remembering Allah Azza wa Jal, and making dua. This is a dua. Did you know? I'm sure you know, salam is dua. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace of Allah and His mercy and His blessings be upon you. This is the dua of Jesus, right? Even in Hebrew, shalom, right? Salam. And Jesus, peace be with you, peace be upon you. Same expressions of the prophets and the messengers. Islam is no exception as usual. So you begin with the salam. Now, if there's a purpose or some reason that arises where you find it necessary to argue, then remember Allah Azza wa Jal. Remember Allah by saying, "Subhanallah, Subhanallah, my wife, what do you want? Don't you feel pity for me? I'm tired." See, if we did this, it would be very effective. But the problem is she comes up and we want to go higher, right? She screams and we scream higher. So who screams higher? Of course, the neighbors are the ones who suffer. They can't sleep all night because these guys, trying to, win at home. But ultimately, if we were to be nice, kind, merciful, avoid arguing, the woman on her own will understand that I need to relax. And vice versa. If the man seems to be in the mood to argue, and the woman says she does not entertain that, then the man will get the picture, and arguments will be avoided. So we must avoid arguments. The practical solution is remembering Allah. Remember that this argument may lead to destruction. This argument may lead to hatred. This argument may lead to divorce. And none of these are welcomed in Islam. Rather, all of them are reprehensible in Islam. So with that said, then we don't argue to the best of our abilities. And if the children see us argue all the time, then guess what? They will argue with you. And so it turns into an arguing business at home. Seventhly, aiding one another. And this is among the most important points, in fact. Because we said, brothers and sisters in Islam, that the objective of the marriage institute is what? To establish servitude to Allah. A husband and a wife must help each other. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "May Allah have mercy on a man who wakes up at night to pray. Then he wakes up his wife to pray. And if she